really excited to introduce this webinar on European Union fire safety updates, and indeed there have been quite some updates over the last months. And for this webinar, we are extremely happy to welcome speakers from European Commission and the GRC. There are two people in the room, Heike from District World. I would say, I would dare to say an old face on the CPR and fire safety topics. And then we also got Marco from MBA, and we are going to hear from them very shortly. Also connected via computer, we've got Francesca from the Joint Research Center. Welcome to all. And as has been said, we will be recording the meeting so that we can share it later on to better inform everybody. And we will try to manage as smooth as possible the exchange during this webinar. But as you know, there are some rules for the meeting etiquette. It needs particularly with regard to the microphone. So please, if you can mute your mic, and whenever you wish to intervene, you just raise your hand, and we'll try to get back to you and to hand over the speakerphone so that you can indeed raise your comment or questions. This is relatively straightforward. We can move on to the next slide, I guess, so not, which is basically on the don'ts and do's.
I think we lost the sound in the meeting room, Javier.
So can you hear us or not?
It's here. It's okay.
Yes, no problem. Very clear.
Check in the chat as well. Yeah, other people are also having issues with the sound.
We got feedback from some participants saying that it's working okay. So if you can move one slide further, and that's basically on the competition law reminder. Normally it shall not really apply to this kind of meeting. I mean, it shall not apply. What I mean is there should be no problem at all with topics discussed during this exchange. But as you know, of course, no talks about prices, about brand new developments which are not yet in public domain, and anything related to blacklisting of customers, blacklisting of suppliers, all that kind of information. We in the meeting room are not in control of the slideshow. Yes. Okay.
Yes, just please give me a nod to move the slides. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. So it's okay for this slide. We can then move on to the agenda. Agenda that you've received. Again, we are really delighted to get 3 speakers to enlighten us on latest developments from regulatory side and also from the legislative side, from the European Commission and the GRC. You can see on screen the speakers and the topics. Of course, we will try to manage time as good as possible. What is important also is to have interaction with the audience. So we'll provide for time after those 3 presentations to indeed go a bit deeper into the topics. And I think that I will stop there, and I will give the floor to you.
Thank you.
Just moving the camera so you can see me. So yeah, good morning, everyone. So just let me start by briefly introducing the MBA, the Modern Media Alliance, especially for those who don't know as well. The MBA is the European Alliance of trade associations and companies representing the plastics industries in the construction sector. And as of March this year, the MBA is now officially set up as an international non-profit association. And a cornerstone of our mission is advancing the safe and sustainable use of construction solutions with plastic, and with a focus on fire safety. And this is a critical factor guiding our products and design and manufacturing. And we believe that building fire safety is a shared responsibility across the entire value chain, which is why we are committed to supporting and working with the EU in delivering safe and sustainable construction solutions. So here you can see our current members representing the whole value chains of the plastic industry. Yeah, without going into more details, we can go to the next slides. And this is the composition of our team with the executive board, composed of one representative from each of our members, with the president Arnaud, who is here with us. And you see the team in the secretariat with myself, supported by Franklin, who is our fire safety expert working full-time, and Laura, administrative assistant. So I need to say that Laura and myself are working part-time for the MBA. And now, if we move to the next slide, just wanted to take the opportunity to briefly highlight some of our latest publications, without going into detail, because you can find them on our website. So these are two fact sheets on key elements of our BIO framework, which, as many of you might know, is our holistic approach to fire safety, and also aiming to promote the best practice exchange among member states, and closely linked to the 7 layers concept for fire safety in buildings. So the first fact sheet explains why fire safety in buildings facades is so important, so especially in all our buildings. And here the key message is really that it's not just about fire performance of individual materials, but how the whole system behaves in a real fire. So the document recommends using tested combinations of materials, proper fire barriers, and careful installations, among others. So this is a critical resource for advancing fire safety. So if you want to know more, please go on our website and check it out. And another recent publication, also part of our BIO framework, is the fact sheet on detection and alarm systems, which basically explores the critical role of early detection and alarm systems in improving building safety. And a key recommendation is the call for stronger rules and more awareness to make sure that the systems are in place and working everywhere. And then moving on to the next slide. We have, in addition, a number of position papers that we have published over the past year, reflecting our latest views and priorities on key issues. And again, you can find them on our website for more detail. The first report on fire safety engineering competency, which essentially underscores the critical role of fire safety engineering in ensuring safe buildings, and as well as the importance of integrating fire safety engineers throughout the building's life cycle. And to support this, the report advocates for a harmonized approach to fire safety engineering across Europe, along with clear definitions of fire safety engineers' roles and responsibilities. And another important publication is the position paper on fire safety of PVs on large roofs. So the document basically highlights the growing importance of fire safety in PV installations, which are becoming more widespread in Europe, and it calls again for a holistic approach to ensure safe and sustainable use of PV technology. Then we have also a paper on plastic compatibility with fire safety, which highlights how plastic are widely used in buildings and can meet fire safety standards when properly designed and installed. So, and it demonstrates that while being combustible products, plastics are actually safe when used correctly, and they can contribute to sustainable and energy efficient buildings. And last but not least, earlier this year, we published also a paper on performance-based design in construction. So explaining how PVD uses science and engineering to meet safety goals instead of focusing on fixed rules, which in turn will help create safer and more innovative designs. So this is especially useful for complex buildings like hospital renovations, energy efficient projects. And while offering all the benefits of this approach, the paper also highlights the challenges that comes with the system. And finally, I will mention one of our upcoming publications, probably around the summer or after the summer, which will touch upon the topic of sustainability, especially will clarify the connection between sustainability and fire safety, and show some examples of advanced innovation where fire safety has been properly considered. And yeah, the key message there will be really that fire safety is essential for sustainable buildings. So yeah, stay tuned as this will come out soon. And yeah, so I think that's what I wanted just to highlight. And if there are any comments or questions, we can move on to the topic of the webinar. And I will start with by giving the floor to Heike, who will present the fire safety and construction products update on the European Commission. So please.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, I speak for Marco, myself, and Francesca by stating that the fire safety of built environment is the responsibility of the member states. You all know that. On top of that, we have some EU level regulation, which is applicable to member states as well. And I'm coming from the construction products regulation point of view to this area of regulatory framework. New construction product regulation was published in the beginning of this year, and it will be the date of application will be 8th of January 2026. And I'm now going to explain how this is expected to work in practice. But anyway, the CPR is kind of a framework, legislative framework, but the actual implementation of the CPR happens at the level of the harmonized technical specifications and European assessment documents. Now, as our regulatory possibilities are quite limited, it doesn't mean that we could not do something else as well, which will be now explained in the next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. So the regulatory framework, or in the continuum of our activities, the regulatory is on the left-hand side, and then we have completely non-regulatory activity, which is Fire Information Exchange Platform. I will come back to that later on. And then in between, we have specific issues that we are dealing with, which are mainly projects. So we had a project on fire statistics. I will come back to this issue a little bit later. The facade fire testing methodology development was finalized at the end of last year. And then fire safety engineering, which Francesca will cover more in detail in her presentation. Next slide, please. About the new CPR, so what will be applied from the beginning of next year. Fire safety continues to be an important part of the basic requirements for construction works. So all the elements from the old CPR will stay. However, they are a little bit more elaborated in the new text, but the basic principles are exactly the same. And at the level of the products, we are currently and in the future as well interested in their reaction to fire behavior, resistance to fire, glowing combustion, and then external fire exposures for roof and roofings, and for facades, which will be coming or is in the making in the future. And as usual, these continue to be implemented through harmonized product standards or European assessment documents, or with implementing acts for which the new CPR now provides a possibility for the Commission to issue, which are kind of comparable documents to harmonized standards. So if the standardization machinery does not work, we have a possibility to intervene and publish those harmonized technical specifications ourselves. Next slide. An important issue to keep in mind with the new CPR and the old CPR is that these two regulations will be running in parallel. The repeal date for the current or the old CPR is in 2040, which means that we will still be working in practical terms with the current harmonized standards, for example, until they will be updated under the new CPR. Well, they will be repealed or made invalid under the old CPR. And as there is this parallel processing, this means certain things and what we need to do. It's not going to be easy, but I think, or we hope that it doesn't create any interruptions on the market. And in practical terms, the tools that we have, so the standards, the delegated acts, etc., they will be running in parallel. And as we are not going to bring the old decisions from the old CPR, referring to old CPR, to the new CPR, this means that we are going to establish the same decisions under the new CPR, which is interesting. Next slide, please. So this means that there is a process of kind of re-adoption of the main decisions that have been taken under the old CPR. And the idea in this respect is to bring the technical content as it is to the new CPR. However, what is relevant for the fire safety issues is that this re-adoption, if you like, is going to address the issue of standard references in the new decisions. I'm going to explain it a little bit later what that means. But we are currently working on draft regulations on reaction to fire classification, resistance to fire classification, and external fire exposure for roof and roof coverings. This was presented to the CPR Acquis expert group at the end of April, and we expected to have comments on those drafts by the end of May, and currently we are updating the documents. There were some comments, some of them are valid and could be considered, but there were also a lot of comments that it will be for the further development of these decisions under the new CPR once we have them there. Next slide, please. And now I'm coming to the standard references in these delegated acts. So the Commission legal framework expects, and whenever, under whichever legislation, there is a reference to a standard, that this reference have to be to a dated standard. And this makes things a little bit complicated in the current decisions, because, for example, for reaction to fire, we have a delegated act which directly refers to testing standards without any dates even, which is luckily good for us, but it doesn't fly on the new CPR anymore. And this is why we are now kicking out the standard references from these delegated acts altogether. This was already tested with the resistance to fire classification that was adopted under the old CPR in 2024. So all the standard references were out, and we are going to re-adopt it under the new CPR. And this is where we have the less work. So it's, in our view, is almost ready. And from our experience, it seems to be working. I mean, the life without standard references. And we will see what will happen with the other delegated acts, but we will be trying that with them as well. Now, what this means in practical terms is on the next slide. And I'm using as an example the reaction to fire classification. The upper part is from the current CPR. So class A refers to EN ISO standards 1182 and 1716. And the proposal is not to refer to these standards, but to non-combustibility test and heat of exhaust combustion test. What will then happen when we have this framework without standard references in the play? It will define the classes, and the testing standards will be defined in the harmonized standards. So the harmonized standard will tell that for this product, for non-combustibility test, what is meant is EN ISO 1182 with the date. And this is, of course, what people working in fire safety has not been used to. But as a matter of fact, it is the way the system works for all the other essential characteristics. So we have very few decisions where the standards are referred to. And this is what we are now exploring and trying to try in practice. Next slide, please. For the roofs and roof coverings, as you know, there are 4 test methods. And there we have a little bit more work to do. And our approach is that we will define these test methods, if you like, into 4 different essential characteristics. And the manufacturer, which will be declaring these performances, can declare any one of them, depending on the markets that he's serving. Classification will stay the same, what you will find in the decisions, except for the class F, which the current legal decision says that class F is no performance declared. This doesn't work because it's completely different thing. And therefore, the concept of F is not fulfilling the requirements of the class above, basically. Tested, but not fulfilling the actual lowest level. Next slide, please. In the harmonized technical specifications and also a bit on the EADs, there is this CPRRT process, which is now running for, I think, for 10 different product families at the same time. And there will be fire related CPRRT activities as well. We are going to have a horizontal group for fire issues, which will in practical terms kick off somewhere in autumn. And they will be looking at the horizontal issues. Like, for example, if we at some point of time need to update the delegated act for reaction to fire, this is the group who will discuss it at the first instance. There are also fire-related products which will be kind of directly fire-related. So active systems, so the fixed firefighting, alarms, etc., and then the passive systems, which are fire stopping and fire sealing products. I think the active, so the fixed firefighting equipment, CPR key product will probably start in the beginning of next year, depending on our resources from the consultant side and also our own resources. But the passive protection is quite far down the priorities at this moment of time. Next slide, please. Fires, the project, now I'm going to the mid part of the thing. So the project on the fire statistics will continue. European Parliament asked Commission to conduct or manage their preparatory action on this issue. The terms of reference for open call for tender is in the making. We had wished to launch the call before the summer break, so by the end of this month. We're still working on that schedule, but let's see what will happen. It's coming, and it's going to be quite big project. And as I said, it will be executed through open call for tender. And the basic idea is to test the methodology of the system that was created on the pilot project, which was a desk study. Next slide, please. This is the other end of the continuum, which is a fire information exchange platform, which is completely voluntary, and it continues to have webinars. We are going to have the next webinar this Wednesday afternoon, and it will be about wildfires and built environment interface. We are eager to find good topics for this. I think we will be repeating some of the topics that we have already covered. And I'm looking here to Marco, because they will be having some developments also in this respect. And we have already agreed that Fire Information Exchange platform will be used for this development as well. And on the next slide, you will see the topics that have already been covered. This is my last slide, but I want to mention about the facade testing methodology. I mentioned earlier the horizontal group for fire issues in the CPR key process. This will be the first topic on that group's agenda when it starts. So we will be developing a standardization request for SEN to develop this standard. And I know already that DC 127 has started preparation for this work. So there will be a task force or task group or whatever it's called, technical group, TG, which will be looking into, this will be looking into this development, and hopefully we will get the testing standard quite quickly, because for me it's a copy-paste exercise, but that's just me. So, thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, thank you for this overview of activities and DG4, quite a lot. Well, I don't know indeed for this the work on the CNTC 127 and this method. This is of high interest to a number of stakeholders, and of course we, as MBA, we have already been involved into that. Just to indeed highlight that the Modern Building Alliance has been active also under the FIEP, trying to help the debate and nourish exchanges, and we will of course continue to get involved in either in FIEP or other arenas like the fire statistic projects at the European Parliament level, which we have been promoting as well years ago. But we'll keep a question for later. But we move to the next speaker, and yes, Marco from DG Energy. What's on your plate?
Yes. So I will give you a brief overview of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive and how it interacts with fire safety, and the work that we have been doing after the adoption of the text to also address the implementation. Also from the fire safety point of view, there is some action that we are going to launch very soon. So if we go to the next slide. I just make a very quick overview of course, the importance of the PBD in general, because of the building stock being the largest energy consumer and responsible for more than 1/3 of the energy-related emissions. We're talking about 24 billion of square meters that is undergoing some level of renovation every year, but indeed we need this is the number of 2020, but we need to really accelerate on that and specifically work on renovations that are deeper, so that are able to indeed achieve a better resource and energy efficiency. And we are too slow indeed, because indeed 75% of buildings are characterized by poor energy performance, which means that, for example, we just meant that during the energy crisis, many member states had to pour billions of euros of price support to citizens, and this is a way, renovating the building stock is also a way to structurally address this issue, but also this is linked with the quality of life in the buildings where we are living. So it's not only about, of course, the very important challenge of energy performance and reducing emissions, but it's also related to energy security and also to reducing bills for citizens. And even more importantly, if we think about that, 85% of existing buildings have already 25 years of age, and so they will probably need to go a first wave of renovation. So having said that, the PBD, going to the next slide, has decided for the first time in its 4 editions, let's say, the recap of 2024, there were previous versions in the past, and such a priority focus on renovation, and specifically with the introduction of minimum energy performance standards for non-residential buildings to trigger the renovation of worst performing non-residential buildings, but also addressing the renovation of the building stock that is residential with the introduction of national trajectories for the progressive renovation of the residential buildings. And very importantly, with requiring member states to draft this time, let's say, a new version of the existing long-term renovation strategies, which is national building renovation plans, which are due this year, where member states will have to, in a way, to bring down, to write goals and targets and to operationalize the renovation of their building stock. So there is a significant attention to it. There is a significant attention to decarbonization, which leads, for example, to the introduction of the standard of zero-emission buildings with no on-site fossil fuels. This, of course, and also the solar, some articles that really address the maximization of the solar energy potential of the existing buildings. And this linked to bigger attention towards the topics of, for example, of electrification of the building stock, which is something that changes in a way the risk profile of buildings, and that needs to be taken carefully into account when renovating buildings or rebuilding buildings. And there is a part of the PBD is also concerning the modernization and cement system integration. So we're talking about not only the situation inside the building, so the indoor air quality, so with attention towards ventilation systems, but also, for example, provisions that accelerate the rollout of infrastructure for sustainable mobility, which is another topic that has some fire-related implications that member states will need to take into consideration. And then there is a whole let's say, focus area of the PPT, which is indeed focusing on the enabling framework, which underpins all the other elements, and that is really addressing the technical and non-technical barriers to renovations. So, for example, that deals with strengthened energy performance certificates and general information tools for citizens, such as also one-stop shops. And also, of course, the aspect of financing renovation, which is an important element in this sense. Having given this general structure, I will go now a little bit more in depth in the next slide on the fire safety in the recap. As Aiki mentioned, it is not something where it is for the subsidiarity principle. Of course, it's a responsibility of member states, but the PPT tried to give attention and visibility to the issue in several articles. Of course, new and existing buildings undergoing major renovation have to, when doing so, member states have to address fire safety, and it's also clarified in a recital that the deep renovation is a prime opportunity to also address other aspects such as fire safety. There are other instances where fire safety is addressed, for example, when delivering guidance and training for people responsible to implement the PPT, and importantly also in the building renovation plans template, where member states are invited, even if this is a voluntary element, but to report also on the policies and measures that are addressing fire safety. And finally, also another element, the Commission is mandated, is required to publish guidance by the end of this year on fire safety in car parks, and this is actually something we have already done, and I will give some information in the next slide. So going to the next slide, I would like to highlight the fact that we have had a very important milestone over the last few days, because on the 30th of June it was published an important package of we call the EPBD implementation support package, which includes guidance on the recast PPT and specifically on the 13 annexes that address the several different provisions. I will go in depth in the next slide. We have also already put out a guidance that aims to support member states in implementing the provisions of Article 1715, which is related to phasing out financial incentives for standalone boilers powered by fossil fuels. And we have in the pipeline also a different type of guidelines, because it's not going to be, let's say, interpretative for the implementation of the PPT, but it's more going to be providing information and best practices, which is related to fire safety, which was also a document that was strongly called for by the stakeholders in the field, because indeed there are new challenges related to the electrification technologies and to the renovation of buildings, also with the insulation of buildings, and we want that this is done correctly. So kind of coordinated information coming from the union could be useful in that regard. So going to the next slide, I will just very quickly. There are some issues with the fonts in the slides, but these are the 13 annexes that we have published in the last days, and specifically the guidance that was mentioned in Article 14 about the fire safety in car parks is included in the Annex 9, or the one related to sustainable mobility. Where relevant, of course, we have made reference to. We have called the attention to fire safety issue, but there will be indeed a specific guidance on that point that member states could take into account. Going to the next slide, I will give a little bit of an overview on the fire safety in car parks. Indeed, Article 1410 required the Commission to provide a guidance in that regard, and the Annex 9 will include include summarized recommendation in that regard, but this work was conducted under the Sustainable Transport Forum. It was a specific regulation, the alternative fuel infrastructure regulation. And I just wanted to recall that there is even bigger document that addressed the topic that is the one that I linked in the slide. And for the rest, member states will have also the EPBD guidance on Annex 9 that addresses all the topics from fire prevention to fire management, let's say, during inside the covered car parks. And going to the next slide, I will then refer to the work stream that we have. We are going to launch very soon. Indeed, we do not have the competence inside the Commission to address this specifically, so we have launched a public tender, which has been already closed. We received the offers, and we will launch the study very soon. The title of the study will be Guidance on Fire Safety linked to the electrification and renovation of buildings, and the objective is to support the Commission on delivering a fire safety guidance related to indeed electrification and renovation of buildings to be ready by Q2 2026. So it's going to come a little bit later compared to the other guidance document, because we needed to put this process in motion. But we have also we will let's say we will launch it in the coming weeks. We have already identified the potential winner, so it's really a matter of weeks now, and it will be focused on 4 main topics. Possible ad hoc guidance on some specific issues that are not covered by the first 4 points, and this would be solar installations. The EPBD will have a significant attention to this towards the maximization of solar potential of buildings. So there might be the need to point at best practices and on the insulation of buildings and other parts of the building envelope, on the installation in buildings of storage systems. So of course, the scope will not be related to EV systems because they are already well addressed in the existing guidance, but rather batteries that are installed in buildings. So we'll see such electrification solutions also linked with solar systems, how they can be best addressed. And then also other technical building elements, such as also heating appliances. We will try to cover all these aspects, and specifically the topics will start from the literature review to analyzing the existing legislation and best practices. And there will be a lot of work also in collaboration with stakeholders, including through the Fire Information Exchange platform that Eki was mentioning before, and the network that they have. We are still going to start the project, so we will have to understand exactly how we will do it, but the idea is really to engage with stakeholders to make guidelines that is going to be relevant in the European territory. And they will support us drafting the guidance, of course, but also providing wider reports. The guidance will normally be more streamlined documents, but there will be a lot of work on literature review, and maybe we think that this work should not be lost in a way. So we'll also think about publishing more detailed technical reports that could be useful. And I think that I have the last slide now. Just to say indeed that maybe to recall the topic that safety is not the primary objective of the EPBD, of course, and it's not within its direct scope, but the EPBD recast took an opportunity to give visibility to the issue, and we know that, of course, there is a lot of work to be done on several aspects also related to skills and competence. I think that Francesca will address it in the next speech, and also there is a lot that can be done on the exchange of best practices. And the goal of this guidance that we will start working on is really to provide this, to give a coordinated amount of resources in reference to member states to ensure that fire safety aspects are not underestimated or are well considered when implementing provisions. And this would be my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Marco, and indeed quite a lot of details on the 2024 EPBD. And was just looking quickly at EPBD history, and it's quite striking that for some of us around the table, we have seen the 2002 directive, and the 2002 directive was about 7 pages long, including the annex and the whereas part. Now we live, of course, in a different world where we have a very complex architecture with a lot of dedicated and supporting documents. But of course, the goal is there, which is to improve energy performance of buildings, because indeed it's not an easy nut to crack, and it deserves special attention and support, and that's, as you can imagine, that's a key focus of our organizations, which is to help renovate Europe, and at the same time making sure that indeed it's fire safe, and that we can that everybody can enjoy in the offices and in homes comfort, safety, and good indoor applications. Yeah, I'm sure there will be questions on the EPBD later on, but we move to the next speaker, and I'm pleased to introduce Francesca from GRC, which is not always well known, the activities of GRC. So it's a good opportunity, Francesca, to enlighten us on what you have got on your plate in relation to fire safety. Francesca, please.
Thank you very much, Javier. And thank you to MBA, to Franklin for this kind invitation to me to speak among my colleagues at the European Commission. Next slide, please. Yes, the JRC is Directorate General of the European Commission, whose purpose is to provide independent, evidence-based knowledge and science to support the European Union policies to positively impact society. In particular, among the different sites of the JRC, my unit built environment is based in Ispra, Italy. Please, next slide. So what does JRC do in support of fire safety? In particular, we work within the framework of administrative arrangements between JRC and GROW. And the objective of our work, it's a particular task within the administrative arrangements, is to facilitate incorporation of fire safety engineering approach in fire safety regulations of the European Union member states. Fire safety engineering, because the Commission acknowledges the many benefits of the rational quantitative approach to fire safety, providing for increased fire safety, better communication among professionals and officers involved in fire safety for the built environment, implementation of new technologies, and the possibility to address buildings and built spaces outside of the traditional prescriptive approach in fire safety building regulations. Our work is in line with the scope of FIEP, which was already mentioned by Heikki. and it is supported by an expert network, around 35 experts participate in this JRC Fire Safety Engineering Expert Network, which operates since 2019. Marco, Heikki, and also Franklin are part of this network, which includes European Commission and the European institutions members. Technical committees involved in the writing and production of standards in the field of fire safety engineering, and many European stakeholders. The objectives of our work in detail are to assess the needs, particularly related to standardization, that will facilitate the incorporation of fire safety engineering in the regulatory frameworks of the European Union member states, as well as to practically support professionals in practice of fire safety design with fire safety engineering approach. And the second objective is detailed definition of needs for guidance, training, including education for professionals involved in fire safety engineering practice. The first step of our activity was to perform and launch a survey together with GROW, consisting of a questionnaire which was proposed to the fire regulators in the member states. This was the topic, the subject of a JRC technical report, which was published in 2023. Next slide, please. This report can be freely downloaded from the link you see at the bottom of this slide. And the main findings that we could enlighten with this inquiry were that the fire safety engineering approach is not yet fully implemented in the countries that responded to the survey. Instead, traditional prescriptive methods are still prevalent in practice, even where in the countries where fire safety engineering approach is officially allowed for in building regulations. However, we can say that positive prospects appear, because where fire safety engineering is allowed for, then it is it can be applied to many technical areas or the technical details of a project. We will see in the next slide what are technical areas, and many types of buildings and civil engineering construction. Another point we could enlighten was that assessment methods that allow for application of fire safety engineering approach are largely dependent on national regulation and standards which contain such methods. Very interesting are also the reasons why fire safety engineering is allowed in the majority of countries which responded to the survey. That is to implement new fire safety technologies in design, to properly design the fire safety of innovative spaces that exceed the current limitation of prescriptive approaches, and to overcome the fact that prescriptive regulation all structures according to their characteristic of geometry, occupancy, and crowding, for example. Then fire safety engineering is not allowed in 4 of the 32 responding countries because of insufficient infrastructure components, meaning legal provision, legal framework, insurance, professional certification, which means the qualification framework for professionals involved in fire safety design. And last but not least, education for fire safety engineering, for engineers, of course. This leads to also to a recognized lack of professional expertise to perform calculation with performance-based approach. Next slide, please. In the conclusion of this report, we have remarked that the implementation of fire safety engineering in the European Union strongly depends on the availability of first of education and training in performance-based design with fire safety engineering. This would strongly support the competency of professionals, reviewers, and officers that are involved throughout the whole process of design, review, and approval of projects. And this would also support the proper qualification framework for these actors. Then the successful implementation of fire safety engineering also depends on the availability of new or updated standards for performance-based fire design, which are needed to support professionals in performing the main tasks of fire design and effectively undertake liability where they are given the liability for fire design. Next slide, please. Our work in progress includes updates to the fire safety engineering implementation status through new data which were provided by SFP, the Society for Fire Protection Engineering, which is represented in our experts network. These data are more recent and come from a selected group of 13 countries whose professionals of fire safety design responded to the same inquiry as the JRC throughout the SFP national chapters. Then we are exploring ongoing standardization work and new fields related to fire safety engineering implementation, thanks to our network, our expert network. And finally, we have mapped the education in fire safety engineering provided by university in Europe. Please, next slide. The allowance picture is updated for this group of 13 countries, which you can see in the map on your right. We see that in comparison to the JRC inquiry, we see that only Portugal has given a different answer. The professionals of Portugal have responded that fire safety engineering is applicable through the provisions contained in the National Building Code. However, the approval process is still an issue. Next slide, please. Technical areas are the technical details of a project For example, fire detection, suppression system, evacuation routes, etc. 12 of these technical areas are considered in the survey and are useful to map the implementation of fire safety engineering approach. The comparison of replies from the JRC survey and the SFP survey in the group of 13 countries has enlightened that the prevalence of the prescriptive approach is confirmed. However, there is some different response from professionals concerning some specific technical areas for which they declare that currently no approach is available. This reflects their different views as professionals. The technical areas where the performance-based approach is applied more frequently are more or less the same for both for fire regulators and fire professionals, meaning the two different surveys. Next slide, please.
Yeah, maybe Francesca,
yes.
If you can speed up in order to have a proper Q&A in a couple of minutes, so that would be great. And
yes,
of course, we'll be sharing the slides, but so that we can have an exchange afterwards. Thank you.
In a couple of minutes, I will be finishing. Concerning the types of buildings, there is agreement on high-rise buildings, super high-rise buildings, and airport terminals as the most frequent targets for fire safety engineering application, and conversely, residential buildings as the least indicated ones. Please, next slide. On assessment methods, there is agreement in indicating the regulations and standards as the main sources, but fire safety engineering professionals also attribute, also give importance to literature sources for assessment methods for applying fire safety engineering approach. Next slide, please. Standardization activities. We have information coming from both professionals and regulators about some of the most urgent topics. And thanks to our experts in the network, we have identified how the standardization committees are addressing such needs. Please, next slide. We have mapped also education in fire safety engineering provided by European universities. 33 courses have been mapped, and there is a detailed mapping course by course in the forthcoming publication of JRC illustrating the outcomes of the current work. Next slide, please. In synthesis, we see that qualification framework and fire engineering practice is connected to the availability of education. Qualification framework is not explicitly defined in 13 out of 28 countries which allow for fire safety application. This is a very important element in our analysis. Then we compared also the availability of education to the tasks, the tasks mainly performed by the fire safety, by the fire engineers, mainly the specification of fire scenarios, design fires and safety criteria, and finally the liability they can undertake. Next slide, please. This is an example of how we compared such information through tables. Next slide, please. And we have drawn some conclusions about this intersection of availability of education, fully defined qualification frameworks, and the status of what fire designers do, and if they undertake liability for doing. Next slide, please. To the conclusions. Professionals see a wider applicability of fire safety engineering through technical areas and assessment methods. Complex and large projects are, of course, the main targets. And standardization committees are taking into account the needs expressed by the responders to both inquiries. Next slide, please. We see that it's opportune that a dialogue is kindled among stakeholders, especially the university and the authorities having jurisdiction on building regulations, in order to harmonize the educational offers and the qualification frameworks to foster the implementation of fire safety engineering practice. In many countries, it is opportune also to increase educational offer, not only to connect it to qualification framework, and this will be a great support, especially for professionals involved in fire safety engineering practice. It's all on my side. Please, next slide. Thank you for this invitation, and finally, thank you, Laura, for your support.
Thanks a lot, Francesca, and well, it's you are unveiling a lot of interesting activity that your organization is doing, and we can see, you know, the breadth and depth of activities on fire safety engineering. It's really a lot there, and as I said, we'll be sharing the slides also with participants afterwards. But it's really great to have you explaining all of that. Now we move to the Q&A, and the meeting group will try to I guess maybe it's you, Laura, just to look at hand raised. So please, if you can indeed raise your hand, and then we will ask you to intervene. We have got quite a nice debrief on activities from 3 organizations, or from Commission, GRC, that's the same, but from 3 different angles. From construction products, from buildings side, and also on the GRC activity. I don't know whether there is a hand raised for a question for a speaker.
Not yet. And for people who raise their hands, when we give you the floor, please introduce yourselves. Just your name and your organization, please.
So probably we can have some question from our side on indeed the work related to electrification of renovation. So you said that there are indeed some activities, and with a due date, which was, I don't recall, for next year maybe.
Yes.
I don't know whether you can tell us a bit more on how the work is, whether you will be meeting that deadline, or whether on the contrary it will come earlier, later. And
no, we are already a little bit late because indeed there was the whole process to be taken into account. With these projects, is always a bit, it goes a little bit behind the line, but we would really like for it to be delivered in 2026 June, because the date of transposition of the BBT is in May 2026, so the end of May 2026. So it would be nice to have it then. Of course, it's not necessarily the same. Sometimes also the same ministries that are taking up for example, the topic of fire safety, and this is something that we hope also to improve and to give information about during the process of the guidelines. And indeed, the idea is also to engage with member states. We have done this work very importantly before for the 13 annexes that I was talking about. So it was really these guidelines come from the question that member state had in the implementation of the PBT. They come from a dialogue with the member states, so they are those that have to implement the directive. And we would like to continue this engagement, even if it's a little bit different, and also continue to engage with stakeholders on that. So let's say that when the guidance will be out, even if it's going to be a little bit late in the process of the PBT implementation, it will still have been analyzed by member states, looked at by member states, and in any case could be used for the future for also other types of initiatives that are not necessarily linked with the implementation of the APBD, so not necessarily those national laws that are put in place to implement the APBD, but also other regulations, other guidelines, because of course it's not necessarily to be a law to be taken into account.
So indeed, the electrification is ongoing, and electrification is a tool to achieve decarbonization. So we see quite some, probably some demand to have also professionals who are well trained and can help achieve those goals.
It's a question from John.
Yep.
Laura?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat from John Garbot, a question for Marco. When will they appoint the contractor to develop the guidance of fire safety under EPBD?
It will come in the next weeks. We have already received the offers and we have been evaluating them, and now there is the last stages of the selection procedures. So it's going to happen very soon.
Thank you. And I see there is a raised hand from Roy. You have the floor.
Roy, we cannot hear you.
I think you are on mute, Roy.
It's coming.
It should work. It
Yes.
should work. Somehow it says that I have a poor network quality. I don't know what's going on. I've got a question for Heikki. Heikki, are you not afraid of misuse when you take out the ISO and EN references in the classification or in the delegated act on the limits? Because the limits are really specifically referring to these standards that should be used. I can understand it from a fire resistance because we only talk in minutes. And it doesn't matter to which standard you test it, 64, 1365, whatever, but the minutes are always the same. But in this case, they are directly linked to a test method.
I'm not afraid, but I'm having nightmares about this issue. There is one, of course, we have full trust on the SEN product DCs that they will be using the correct test methods in that sense. And there is also kind of a control mechanism in place, because it's the Commission who takes the decision about publishing the standard. So if there starts to be, I don't know, references to Chinese non-combustibility test, maybe that standard is not going to be cited. So the standard will still be there, but it will be completely useless for for internal market purposes. And given this situation where the harmonized standard actually creates an internal market for that product category, I think we will be using the correct references in the standards.
We hope so, but I'm a bit worried as the convener of Working Group 4.
Yes,
So
I understand.
you have nightmares, but I'm a bit worried.
Okay, but I think there is another thing. We will see how this will play out, and of course, this can be already taken into account in the standardization requests. It's not. I've been told that it's not completely correct to indicate testing standards in the standardization requests, but if the shit hits the fan, then let a bigger shit hit the fan as well.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see any other raised hands or questions in the chat for the moment. I don't know, Arno, if you had other questions in the meantime.
Yes, maybe on glowing combustion performance, because that's something we see on that there might be there's a way forward might be to have it. I mean, this specification to be for all products, thermal insulating products, for instance. While we know there are certain products which are indeed having this behavior, and some others which are not. In the past, we thought it would be without further testing pathway for certain products. And indeed, that's something which should be working well if we are able to prove that indeed it doesn't affect certain types of products. So I don't know whether how you see this for in the context of again CMTC 88 thermal insulating products and the forthcoming standardization request.
I don't know what has happened in the standardization world, but this is a kind of a continuous topic in the EADs. And there the situation and the legal situation, as a matter of fact, is that there is no delegated act which would say that you can declare for glowing combustion for this product, this performance without testing. Such legal base does not exist. This means that in principle, all the products need to be tested for glowing combustion according to 16377, if I remember well. And then the performance of that product will be declared on the basis of that standard. There's a description. Yes, it glows. No, it doesn't. And third one is, sorry, we were not able to make the test. Now, this doesn't mean that there could not be a decision in the future saying that for these products, glowing combustion is can be declared without testing, and what to be declared is this. However, if you look at the reaction to fire decisions related to declarations without testing, it's not without conditions. For example, for steel, you can declare A1 if the steel does not contain more than 1% of organic material in mass or volume, whichever is more onerous. And when I'm asking, okay, we take this product, you say that it doesn't glow with any level of organic content. And there the discussion starts to go, well, as a matter of fact, we cannot say. And this is something that I completely agree that there are materials and products that don't have this issue, but under which conditions? And once we can agree on under which conditions, then we can have a decision about it which will satisfy the regulatory needs of all the member states.
So work ahead there.
Yeah.
And there is another question in the chat for Heikki from John Garbott. Is there any appetite to push forward quickly the development of a standardized test method for solar installations in combination with flat roof structures? Grunde Jomas has made a proposal. DBI is working on a proposal. Surely SEN should fill the void.
There is appetite. But when we get there is another thing. And it has to be kept in mind that solar panels are also a little bit not problematic, but it would be a little bit more complex to create a standard under the CPR because they are also regulated under the ESP. So, but I don't think this is anything that could not be overcome. But there is no idea at the moment to prepare a standardization request for on these products under the CPR. However, if the member states will tell the Commission that this standard is absolutely needed now under the CPR, I don't think Commission has too many arguments against that.
Maybe a question for Francesca on fire safety engineering, and actually I'm not at all an expert there, but wondering how we can continue to push for this, let's say, for research and development there, and also to bring more people, more experts to the market. So there are rules or development of rules. What is also critical is to have the practitioners and to have. So I don't know how things are going and whether there is some work also from GRC side to elevate the topic and make it more sexy for young professionals.
Thank you for your question. Yes, we are preparing a new report, which is just at the very final stages. It will be published very soon with all the contents I have briefly explained in my presentation. The aim of this report, and as it was the aim of the previous report, is to ignite debate and discussion and to provide information to all the relevant stakeholders, all the relevant European stakeholders in the field of fire safety engineering. Our reports can be downloaded freely, and we hope for the maximum dissemination of them. Yes, with our network of experts, we've had our last meeting the last May, at the beginning of May. And in the concluding discussion, there was the experts the experts agreed on the importance of communicating effectively about education in fire safety engineering to attract young and talented people to this profession. There is a clear need for more engineers educated in fire safety engineering, and this is proven by the stakeholders. but communication from university and from generally from the world of fire safety engineering seems not to be effective enough. We are thinking about this for the next steps of our activities. I have also recently participated in the Interfront conference where I could collect some ideas, and we will try to put this in practice in the next developments. Especially, it is a matter, yes, on one side of communication from university, but also on facilitations for students, meaning scholarships and access to education. Does this answer the question?
Yes, thanks, Francesca. Well, we know that anyhow we are in industries, and it's not the most sexy job those days for youngsters. So it's not specific to fire safety engineering that there are some shortages and lack of attractiveness, but it's more general in the building sector, as you probably have heard. But this is something which on which we need to work, and indeed to have more communication and to better explain what we do, and of course, as we've seen, renovation of buildings is going to occupy quite some workers for the decades to come. So this is certainly not something which is topical 1 year and then you have less demand the next one. We are reaching the end of this webinar. I would like to again warmly thank the speakers for joining us and sharing with us and the membership the key developments in the field of activities. It was really also good to be able to exchange and to get really the latest updates there. And we later on put up the recording on LinkedIn. And we of course look forward to the forthcoming developments on the latest on EPBD guidance, also on the many things going on with the CPR and the ACI, and also on the activities of GRC and what we can disseminate further. Thanks to all. We wish you a very nice afternoon, and we keep in touch. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.